Hi, my name is Elijah Barker, and today we're going to be talking about a temperate deciduous forest. You might wonder what that is. A TDF is a biome that has four distinct seasons: winter, spring, summer, and fall. Winters are cold and summers are warm. It has many trees which drop their leaves in the fall. These forests are also known as broadleaf forests because the trees have wide, flat leaves. Temperate indigenous forests lie in the mid-latitude areas of the Earth, between the Arctic poles and the tropics. It gets between 30 and 60 inches of precipitation a year. Precipitation in this biome happens year-round because the soil is very fertile and hardwood trees are good for building. This biome has some of the world's largest population centers in it. In this slide, we just have a picture of what a TDF looks like in the winter, the spring, summer, and the fall. It can normally be found in Northeast Asia, specifically China, Korea, and Japan, Western Europe, and the eastern third of the United States, and also Canada. And to the left, we just have a map to put those places on a map and to give you a visual of where they are located. And so here we have a list of its biotic factors, which means living factors, which are indigenous trees, birch trees, oak trees, eastern chipmunk, red-tailed hawk, least weasel, white-tailed deer, coyote, carpet moss, lady fern, and common lime. And here and to the right we have abiotic factors, which means non-living, which are rocks, soil, water, sunlight, air, rain, climate, hills, temperature, and air masses. And on this slide, we just have more pictures and more biotic factors in a TDF. And so more animals are squirrels, woodpeckers, hedgehog, raccoon, fox, and a rabbit. And more plants and trees are maple tree, fern, birch tree, oak tree, birch tree, and lichen. So a predator-prey relationship in the TDF is between raccoons and the small mammals. The raccoons will eat almost anything, so it is a predator to almost all the small mammals in the forest, which include mouse, rabbits, birds, if they can catch them. An example of a competition in the TDF is between squirrels and chipmunks. They compete for acorns and a few other resources, but they do not compete for each other for nesting sites. Squirrels nest in trees and chipmunks nest underground. An example of a mutualism relationship, which means that both parties benefit, is between the bird and the deer. The bird eats the insects off the deer, so the bird gets a meal and the deer is insect free. And so in this situation, both parties benefit and no party is affected negatively. This here is a picture of just an example of their flow of energy. So the green is the producer, the light purple, light blue is the primary consumer, and the dark blue is the secondary consumer. So the grasses and the oaks, they make their own food, and so they are consumed by the mice, the deer, and the rabbit. And then the mice, deer, and rabbit are consumed by the coyote, raccoon, the snake, and the beetle. And so usually the primary consumers are herbivores, which means they eat plants. And the secondary consumers usually means that they eat meat and plants. So a carnivore eats meat and an omnivore eats plants and meat. So now we're going to talk about ecological responses to change. Fires destroy some of the mature trees but open up areas and let in sunlight. Grasses, wildflowers, and birch trees and shrubs quickly take over and grow in these forest meadows. These areas eventually develop into mature forest. This change to the forest vegetation is called succession. So basically what this means is when a TDF has a fire, its plants, trees, and shrubs tend to grow back stronger because it uses that fire as a building block to become a better forest, but as a fire, if a fire ever were to occur, its animals would flee away from that area and they would, go to somewhere else. And so that's how it would change, because it wouldn't have insects and it wouldn't have animals. But once the area, started to grow back better, all of the animals that originated in that area would come back, and plants and animals and insects and things of that nature. A temperate indigenous forest contains many species of plants and animals. Fortunately, most temperate indigenous forests has a very high biodiversity index. This is because the biome houses a very high density of plant life. This high density forest contains a countless number of species of indigenous trees, which also house a countless number of animal species. Some of the plant species commonly found are oak, ash, birch, beech, and arrowwood trees. Also, wildflowers, mushrooms, mosses, and ferns are all very common. Unfortunately, like many other biomes, most scientists expect the biodiversity of temperate indigenous forests to lower due to deforestation caused by human development. In a temperate indigenous forest, they have both indirect and direct impacts. Direct impacts include site conversion to other land covers and land uses, including inadvertent effects on the native species composition. Indirect impacts include the introduction or elimination of herbivores or competing species, fire suppression, and attendant changes in disturbance regimens, atmospheric pollution, particularly carbon dioxide, ozone, sulfur, and nitrogen compounds, changes in the age structure of forests through cutting patterns and practices, and changes in stand age demographics on longer timescales related to historical changes in local, national, and global economies. Although their effects tend to interact, for simplicity, we will discuss in each turn. And here is just a page of all of my citations for my pictures, for all my information of that sort. And thank you for listening.